Welcome back, everybody. I am just trying to pin this link again. Oh, pin comment, thank you. Okay, there you go. So, Teal's going to try to get on his other computer. And in the meantime, I'm going to chat with you all. And hang on one second. Thanks for your patience. I am back. I wanted to tell you about this link that I've just posted and pinned here because Tio has, of course, as a member of the United Confederation of the Taino People, he's been working on fundraising for our Puerto Rican relatives for a while now, and we currently have a link attached here to this profile that you can currently donate to. Our people in Puerto Rico need your help for relief efforts, and this link was posted previously to support them during the earthquakes, but they are in need of respiratory ventilators and face masks as well. So you can donate right there, and I'll let him talk to you a bit about it more once we get him back on here.
Freezing again.
What up?
I don't know, man. I hope it works this time, but it's frozen again, so we might have to just try to proceed.
Yeah, no, just continue to proceed. We'll see if it drops you or not, and if it does, then we can perhaps we can do a Zoom call at another time, and we can post that so people can hear the conversation that we were going to have today. But no worries at all. Technology is what it is. I was just beginning to tell them about this donation link that I posted here, and I know that you were just about to tell us kind of just how you are, so I'll let you just pick up where you left off if you'd like.
Yeah, I mean, things are going well for my...
Damn. Tila is just not having a good day today. I'm not laughing at him. I'm laughing at the technology aspect of it. And I also, is anyone who is listening right now on an Android phone? Because Tio's on an Android phone, and I don't know if there's a difference in connection and shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't even know. But that's what he's dealing with right now, is an Android that keeps dropping him off of his good Wi-Fi and whatnot. Oh, help, creator, help. Oh, creator, help us right now. We'd like to talk to Tio so much. He's got such good things to share about our Taino relatives and, indigenous knowledge, and we just would love to speak and discuss. But I guess it's not today. I mean, we can keep trying. Let's see if we can keep trying. Let's see. What are you gonna do? Anyway, I'll try and see if he's gonna come back on here and see if we can catch him again. But I was gonna talk to you. I was talking about this link that is pinned to this profile here in an effort to continue to raise money for our relatives in Puerto Rico. He has this link set up, and honestly, it's, he was just simply trying to raise $2,500 during the earthquakes, and I was in Puerto Rico. I left the day before the earthquakes started happening, and it was just at the beginning of January, and the link that he has had posted since December was simply to raise $2,500, and he had that posted to the Confederation of Taino People's Facebook page, and it has like 10,000 followers and whatnot. So, but so far I've only been able to raise $765. So, you know, there's 286 people currently listening right now. If everyone donated $1, you know, that's going to help our sweet island of Boriken, who are suffering right now. And I'll be honest with you, you know, like it was only my second time going to Puerto Rico in December, and for Christmas with my mother, and it is so there's so much beauty on our island. There's uh, so much beauty there, but you know, our government has just completely abandoned them in so many ways, and so you know, grassroots support is really where it's at. Um, and you can, to donate, my friend, you can go to this pinned comment here. I've added it here for you to check it out. So looks like he's trying to switch phones maybe and continue trying to log in. But I want to read this paragraph here that he wrote, and it sort of, you know, can easily be translated to the current crisis. I mean, the needs of people all around the world are so great right now, and places like one of our homelands in Puerto Rico, their needs are so great. They need all of the protective gears that has been promised to the states up here, but yeah, they're seriously lacking. If the link isn't working, that's weird. It's working for me. Yeah, just copy it then. Yeah, if you can't click on it, just copy and paste it. But I'll also, after this, I'll share it in a post as well. But yeah, just copy and paste the link. I think someone just mentioned that, so let me know if that works for you guys. But let's see if Tio's back on. It's somewhere here. Nope, it's not. It's okay. Oh, there he is. See if we can grab him. Hey.
I don't know. Perhaps we can call. I don't know if you could put me on a speakerphone or something. I don't know what else to do.
Yeah, I can send you a Zoom link actually, and we can do it like that. I could set my computer up near the phone because I use my phone to do this Instagram Live. So let me see if do you know how to use Zoom?
Yeah, I use it pretty often.
Okay. Um, Let me see if I can do that for you and send you something here real quick.
Okay, cool.
All right, ciao.
If not, just send me over the computer.
Yeah, I'll send it to you in an email.
Yeah,
Okay, ciao.
sure.
Okay, my friends, so we're going to try and do it this way. Stand by. Uh, let's see how we can do this. Okay. Yeah, I know we could hear him, but it sounds like it's just can continue to kick him off. So I'm going to see if I can quickly make a link for him and send it over so we can at least get his audio connected to our Instagram session here today. Okay, so I just love technology. What's up? Aloha. Lono Kalani. My shirt for BJ Penn, man. The legend, the prodigy. Uh, I used to live next door to him in Hilo. Surfed with him at the beach. Please join. Okay, here we go. So, all right. I sent him a request on Zoom. There we go. We'll see um, when he gets that. Thanks so much for your patience. Thanks for staying tuned in, folks. Folks, homies. I think I did it right. This will be the first time I did it on my computer. Okay. All right. I'm going to, 1 second, guys. Okay. Email has been sent. Here we go. Here we go. Hey, there he is. Can you hear me okay?
I could hear you. You're a little low.
Okay, hang on. Just my laptop because I have a really old laptop. Can you hear me okay now?
It's a little low. Maybe if I put on the earphones.
It's probably going to be low anyway because that's just my computer.
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you great. I wonder if we could do it like this. Hey.
Wow,
there he
talk about
is.
technology.
This is the way to go right here. This is chill.
You know, if I didn't know better, I'd say there was a government conspiracy.
Yeah, they didn't want you to talk about what's up, huh? I get to hold you though. I'm like,
so are we doing this, man?
Yeah, we're gonna do it like this, and I get to hold you like this. Eee.
All right.
All right, so I'm gonna put on my game face. This one. I'm listening. So as you were saying, here we are. As you were saying.
What was I saying?
You were telling us about how you're doing and how your heart is. It's where we're sort of trying to get to. Oh no. Did you freeze? What? No way. Tio. Oh man.
You freeze? Am I could you hear me though?
No.
Zoom went out too.
Damn, you're breaking the internet today, Tio.
Damn, I could hear you and see you.
All right, well we can hear you now, so continue before it does anything else.
Like I just said now, prayers to everyone. I'm really feeling for so many people who've been affected, and you know, we have some good friends that we know that have come down with the virus, so we just want to send love and light and healing energy out to them and their families. And we're doing okay. We're you know, not where we live in New York. I live here with my family, my wife Joss and my two daughters, Maina and Kaya. And where we live in Suffolk County, it's a very high amount of people who've come down with the cases. So we're just being as careful as we can be, following the directives, staying at home as much as we can, and just working like everybody else, trying to work and keep things going and try to do the right thing as much as we can.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's good to hear. I'm glad you guys are safe and that you're in good health. As an elder in these times, I mean, where does your mind go? Where does your head go when you're thinking about indigenous peoples, and when you're thinking about what this means for our planet, for our communities who are in danger, frontline communities. Yeah, just super curious, like what you're thinking about in these times regarding that.
Well, Nahko, this really just kind of highlights how out of balance this world is, and that as human beings, we really, unfortunately, haven't evolved enough as a species to see that what we do to the earth really affects us all. And that scientists and others have made connections with the COVID virus directly to climate change and the impact of our consumptive behavior on this planet. Mm. And as an indigenous person, it's painful to see what's going on, not only for our own communities, but for the whole world, for the planet. We use this term often, Mother Earth. In Taino, we say Ataveira. And, there's a real love, at least traditionally, there was a real love when we say that word. And, we think of that planet, this earth, as our mother. And, I think that we understand that. I've heard indigenous peoples all over the world also express that love and devotion for this planet that continues to give us so much, even though we've wrought so much harm and destruction upon it and upon each other. I heard one time, I was at a meeting, you mentioned that I do some international work and been involved in indigenous rights over the years, and I've attended a number of meetings. And I remember one time I was sitting in a meeting and one of these folks said, well, as human beings, really the earth doesn't need us. And so if we were to be gone, it'd probably be better for the earth. And just thinking back on the traditional teachings that I've been able to receive, I had to respond in that moment and say, well, we don't really see it like that. We see that earth and our connection to that earth, as our mother. And, what mother would be happy to see her children gone? So we really have to come to terms with that as people, that this planet is alive, and just like we're alive, just like the animals are alive, the plants are alive, and we just have to come to terms with our relationship and really stop being so hierarchical and so oppressive, to others who are not ourselves. And I think that that's one way that we can deal with this in the future.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. I totally agree with you. I mean, I think there's a natural synergy, a natural relationship, symbiosis that we have with Mother Nature, with Pachamama, and that there's that one cannot be without the other, in a sense. And I think about how long the story has been now especially for indigenous peoples, for First Nations peoples that have dealt with crisis literally all the time. And when we talk about our Taino relatives, there's the history of viruses, of diseases, of natural disasters, of now climate change. Like indigenous peoples consistently always on the front lines of these catastrophic situations that have created resiliency for centuries. And we're tough peoples, but in the same sense, like there is an ever-changing perspective, I think, on a global scale as to where we're going, where we're headed, as a human collective, as human beings on the planet. Um, do you feel as though any of your knowledge as being uh, a long time, member of Taino culture, like, is there things that you can link from our cultures to any perspective on what you just shared?
Yeah, there's a lot of ways that question can go, but I think that you brought up a very good point that our peoples have been dealing with diseases and natural disasters since time immemorial. I think for the Taino, it's really significant because I'm not sure if folks who are listening understand who the Taino people are, but our ancestral homelands extend from the larger Caribbean islands or the Greater Antilles into the southern tip of Florida traditionally, and we were the first peoples. And I say peoples because Taino were many peoples. We were the first peoples to encounter or to be encountered by Christopher Columbus in 1492. Everyone's heard this. 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue, but then they know that he meant Indians, right? Or he called Indians, but they don't really understand that that's our ancestors, or they don't use the word Taino or some of the other terms that our people may have used back then. But I think that right in that very beginning encounter, there was a real clash of ways of looking at the world. And for Taino, we have a term called Oma Bahari. That means with respect. Yeah, Oma Bahari. That means with respect. And we try to live our life like that. Respecting all things. And because we come from a place in the Caribbean islands that have a year-round temperature, probably of about 80 degrees roughly, we have a year-round growing system. At that time, the bounty of the sea was something that we could still access in a real responsible way, but there wasn't a shortage at that time. And so we really grew up in an environment that gave to us, and that was, as you mentioned in the very beginning when I was getting cut off, that's very beautiful. But you could see the both sides of everything very easily in the islands. For example, you see a beautiful fruit, that can fall from a tree and land on the ground, and not too long it can really rot and look ugly. But then in not too long of a time, you can see some beauty sprouting out of that, right? So this is the type of world that we lived in. This is the type of world that really shaped our cognitive outlook on things.
Right.
And so, when these folks came over from then emerging, developing Europe, they had a real different outlook. Those guys, Columbus and those other pirates that came, they were emerging from a 800-year war with who they call the Moors, and we know that those were Islamic nations, right? So they had a real way of looking at the earth that we would see it as indigenous peoples that just is not in harmony. They came from it, and I'm not putting down anybody's viewpoints, but they came from also a religious background that saw all the power invested in men. The highest power is God, and it's God the Father. Then the next highest power would be the king, also
right.
men, and then again and again. So it was really oppressive, and it wasn't again a harmonious way of looking at community. Our communities, Taino community, a chief or a cacique could even be a woman, right? And so I say it like that because so many times in Hollywood and in places you have these romantic images of indigenous people. So
right.
It's like a strong chieftain, it could only be a man. And these are really patriarchal overall. I'm not saying that every indigenous peoples are the same, but these are also images that are imposed by other people upon us, and they shape our thoughts. And this is why it's so hard for us, even as indigenous peoples, to deal with some of these things, because we're always inundated by these images and oppressive forces. So, taking it back to that 1492, the people who see like man as the ultimate power, and you have a people that like the Taino who who see that the beginning of everything, the emergence of life, comes from the female energy. So Mother Earth is not only the earth, she's also the ocean, and then also the universe. So when we say Ataveira, we're really talking about all those things, all those expansive things. And it was a clash, so those conquistadors thought we were weak. And, they came in, remember, they came not to plant beans, they came for gold, because Spain was pretty much broke at the time they came. So they were looking to build empire. And that cycle that began in 1492 hasn't stopped, right? That kind of eating at all these resources. So they ate up the resources over there pretty much in where they live. They were oppressing other religions that were not like them. They were at turmoil, so they came over to this side of the world, and they started that process here. Really, we received those visitors because we thought we were receiving new trading partners who had different type of tools and different things that we could have entered into a real compact with. But they didn't see it that way. They really wanted to oppress, and right away they started trying to enslave people and instill this way of life upon them. And they just really saw our folks as property, that we weren't really considered human beings, right, to them because of our religion or our spiritual outlook on life and the way we saw it. Our ability to understand that there needs to be equality amongst folks, and that includes women. So right there, that's a real conflict that continues today, and you see it in the political systems, right, where men are really in the political power. It's this ideology, right, that they just do what they want. Strength and physical strength, military strength is the way to go. But yet our people, were about diplomacy, right, more. That's why they called us, you read some of these history books, and they call us the peaceful Arawaks, as opposed to others. We really had a diplomatic way of looking at the world, because we were traders, we were travelers, artists. We were people who really lifted up the arts. Even at that time, we were there with the earth, working the earth. So we know, there was no 7-Elevens or Costco for work for your food, right? So all of this really instilled in us a way of looking at life, and the effects of that time, the effects of what happened then, the atrocities and the genocide, the colonialism. We're still suffering those effects today as indigenous peoples, which is why we go to the international system to fight for our rights. But I think that right there, that idea of what we saw as the importance of female energy, and understanding that we come from that from the very beginning of our existence as children, to understand that when we say God, first we're referring to that female energy, right? Or, first there's a spirit, then when it starts to move, it first moves as that female energy, and then, the rest of us come along, just like the way life is around us.
Right.
So I think that's one of the main points is there needs to be that resolution and that understanding and that really that bridge to understand the role and the power of female energy on this earth. And that's something that if you really look at Taino culture in a really clear and critical way, you can see that that's what our folks are talking about from the very beginning.
I mean, would you say that Taino culture, as far as leadership was concerned, that there was a matriarchal existence that happened pre-Columbus?
Yeah, of course, and that's the chieftain lines, even the hereditary chieftain lines, could only come from the female, right?
Oh wow!
Even there's
there's
a Taino word, inaruni, that means truth, and it's related to the word for woman. And the reason why is because you always know who your mother is. You don't always know who your father is, right? So,
right.
So I mean, that's the truth, as crass as that might sound. But, so when you look at woman in that way, and you relate it to that word, there's a reason why it links to the word for woman. And so, we have to look at that and see the ramifications of not seeing that power, not understanding that role up to today. You could see the way that men and heading these corporations or governments wreak havoc upon the earth, extracting resources in a way that's not sustainable. That didn't come from us. In a Taino community, there was an understanding that if one person in the village did not eat, right, nobody was going to eat.
Right.
Right. We had a different understanding of the concept of wealth. Right. For a chiefdom, like I said, whether a man coming from the female line or the line of the matriarchal line, a sign of power or a sign of that this person was a great person, a good person, is how much they could give away. So the chiefs would have big feasts where they would give out things, and they would invite other leaders and other community people to their villages to be able to give away things. That was the wealth understanding, right? And it's not something that you hold on to, right? But it always reverts back to that understanding of the closeness of the mother. Even our term for home, and people still use this in Puerto Rico, in some parts in Puerto Rico, they'll say that their home is the bohío. And the bohío is our Taino term for home. Like there's a lot of Taino terms that are mixed in with contemporary Spanish, again, because, the Taino were on the island before the Spanish arrived.
Right.
And so they had to learn a lot of our terms, when they got to the islands. And so we say bohío, even the term bohío, it's a mix of two terms where it says like your, and then the term mother, oyo. And you could see that from our link, and we have links to the Arawakan languages in South America. But when you tell someone to go home to bohío, you're really saying go to your mother, right? Because that idea of home, sense, is the mother, in the symbolic and the spiritual sense. So you're always having that reinforcing ideal of how powerful the woman is. So when you look at how easy it is for folks to wreak havoc on the earth, you have to relate that back to how easy it is for some folks to really inflict domestic violence upon women. You have to make those connections. We have to see that these things are not far apart. Violence against women, violence against the earth. This stuff came, the Spaniards brought over what we call machismo, meaning, the man is the tough guy, and, smack them like in the old movies. They used to be in the black and white film, smack the woman, and they just, like this.
Yeah.
They just, I don't think that would have been real possible, at least in the Taino community, because those women were warriors,
Right.
and they, even the Spanish in their documents wrote that, some of their toughest fights too were against women. So those, we're not talking about people who were passive, or who did not have a knowledge of martial arts. However, we do have an understanding that our people thought that it was diplomacy was the most important thing, making some kind of negotiation. This is what our people were about, and I think that we try to see that today, like in the multilateral system. When you go to the UN, you try to engage in diplomatic ways, but what's behind that diplomacy? Is it really the good of the people, right? Are we really trying to be in a right relationship with others, or are we trying to get some kind of advantage, right? For our own community at the expense, most of the time, for the most vulnerable, which includes indigenous peoples.
Right. Wow, that was a whole lot of goodness you just shared, and I want to just say that I'm reading some of the comments people are making right now, and it's going over well, Tio.
Well, I can't see it here.
I know.
I can see you in the phone. I'm happy that we can speak, and again, I apologize to everyone that I can't afford an iPhone, but
No, there was a call coming in for some reason. Well, yes. So the return to the mother. I mean, there's so much in what you just shared, and I feel like I'm sort of digesting all that right now. And what if any, I'm sure there are, but within our creation stories, I'm just curious, in some of those old creation stories, or just the old stories, if there was anything within them that spoke of a new world. And I mean, I guess at that point in time, like the world that we were living in was, you know, pre-Columbus was, and pre-Spanish was like very much, there was an in-tuneness that was shared. And I was thinking about, you know, I just put a song out called Honor the Earth, and it's,
I love it.
thank you so much. And it kind of speaks to like what it would have been like to have been there on the shores of Lake Onondaga when they signed the treaty, and what it must have been like to have a relationship with nature the way that our relatives used to have, and what this interesting work is in returning to a sense of our own human nature, and then of course in exact alignment with our relationship to nature itself. And I wonder if, you know, if the things that were being said, believed, practiced back then, you know, is there a world that we can still look to in our future, today, tomorrow, for our grandchildren's grandchildren, for all of creation, that that can be mirrored from that experience that they had, and what you might think of that. Like, what is the new world, Tio? What does that look like for us? What does it look like in your mind?
Yeah, you know, there's a lot of things that come to the fore, but I think that one lesson that our ancestors really shared, very basic, was like, you know, we hunted, we gathered, we traded, and one of the things that we engage with for sustenance, I mentioned our connection to the sea, how important that is,
Yeah.
as islanders. But you know, turtles, for example, sea turtles, you know, harvesting those eggs was a part of our culture. And you know, today we don't really have that ability because of what man has done, right? But at that time, you know, our folks knew that you could harvest eggs, but you couldn't take all the eggs, because if you did, the turtles would not return, right?
Right.
So there's a mindset there that really puts to the forefront, you know, living in a way that we live for need, not greed, right? So it's just that really simple way of looking at things: need, not greed. And if we can just, you know, get closer to that kind of concept where it's not, you know, why does it have to be so over the top all the time? You know, when we talk about attaining wealth or power, you know, what are we using that power for? You know, Taino, really what it breaks down to, you know, peoples didn't call themselves in the same way that they identify themselves now, you know, nationalities and this and that. You know, these were different type of ideals that kind of grew up. So, you know, when we say Taino, we're really talking about a way of identifying, you know, a good person. It's a mix of two concepts, right? And that concept is not a linear concept, meaning, you know, here's good on one end and there's evil on one end, like in the Judeo-Christian philosophies. But what we're saying as far as good is the right action. In other words, are you doing harm to others? Are your actions harming the cohesiveness or disrupting the balance, right, of the community? And that's really what it's about. Our people had a game called Batu. And it was like a precursor to volleyball and soccer. You could almost like the Mayan ball games that you've heard about.
Yep.
And we have our own version of that. And that game was actually not only a sporting event, but sometimes it was also used to adjudicate when people had issues, when there were disputes between communities. So they would get a game together and they would take it to the court, you know, and at this time that court of law was that court playing between, and the people would abide by that because they saw this idea of relationship building and right relationship as more important than their own, you know, greed, right? And their own self-interest. It's not about self-interest, you know. So the way that we look at it now, and if we want to look towards the future, one, we have to really look at our relationship with women, right? With gender, with how we treat others. We have to use that with respect, Omar Bahari, right? With respect when we deal with the creatures around us, the world, the plants, right? We have to engage again in that idea of need, not greed, right? In other words, like, you know, we can't be gluttonous, and that's what we see here, is that people just eat up. Our focus at that time, and what's going to help us at this time, is reinstituting and reaffirming the idea of reciprocity. You just can't take and take without giving back. And so you see our spiritual people, before they take medicinal plants, they make an offering. Before they do, you know, hunters used to go out and hunt. They either make an offering before or after that kill. Right? Because you have a covenant, you have a contract with these other beings, right? We're all working towards this, you know, we're all trying to exist on this earth at this time, in this human form, in these robes that we wear that surround our spiritual beings.
Right.
And so, you know, we have a contract with each other. And so that if we go past that, and if we don't engage in those ideas of reciprocity, and we're not going to go forward, we're not going to make it, we're going to deplete our resources. And they knew that way back then, right?
Right.
So some of the work that we focus on now, like through the Confederation and through our treaties, for example, with the Scatico First Nations or Yawanao or Brazil, or with the other Caribbean, is that we want to really focus on getting the people back to the land, not seeing this as peasant work, right? Because that's the way it was instilled upon us, you know, this type of plantation philosophy. And, you know, who wants to work the plantation, right? I mean, you know, there's a lot of baggage with that type of thing. But, you know, why is it, for example, that, you know, your family or my family who lives on an island that can produce food, you know, in a climate, you know, that's suitable to produce food all year round, why do they import 80% of their food stock, right, to that island instead of producing it there or working sustainably with the ocean, right? So there's a reason for that, because, you know, the powers that be, or the things that think that they are the power, you know, those people, those selfish people, right? And I have to say it like that, these young minds, right, that are not evolving past their own self-interest, you know, that they want to keep the people, you know, in a state where they're feeling bad about themselves. Like, you know, when I was a kid, it wasn't very hip to be connecting yourself with an indigenous heritage, right?
Right.
Because, you know, people look down on that. They saw that as not, you know, not in a romantic way that it's been elevated to through Hollywood, right? But in a really sort of peasant way and a classist way.
Absolutely.
And so, you know, that kind of ideal, right? That feeling bad about yourself, you know, looking at somebody who works on the land. Look who are the essential workers now, right? Right. Look who are the essential workers now. Look who you need to keep this place. This is what shows that this capitalism, this structure that we have is not sustainable. You really get a good sense of that now. Right? You can see it very plainly. I hope people can see it very plainly, that this system is not sustainable, and we really have to get back to the land, back to, you know, working and understanding food sovereignty, right? Food security. I'll give you a quick story, Nahko. I know sometimes I go off in a tangent, but this is related to food security.
Sure good, yeah.
And one of the stories of our ancestors. You know, these Spaniards, they were wreaking such havoc, and they, you know, enslaving people. And, you know, our folks were amongst the very first enslaved before they started bringing over our relatives from what we know as Africa today, right. You know, and enslaving them to work in these fields, you know, for them, or to hunt for gold or whatever. You know, our chiefs went to these Spaniards in the very beginning, and they said, you know, look at all these fields here. And they brought these Spaniards out to these fields. And we have a digging stick that we call a koa, right? So he had this one koa in his hand, this cacique, and he says, you know, one koa could do so much. And then he got a bunch of koas together, right? A bunch of digging sticks together. And he says, but many Koa are strong, right? And he said that we could, if you guys stop what you're doing, you know, we could help feed your people back in wherever it is you came from, you know, across the water. And we'll do that. We'll feed you here and feed the people over there. You just have to stop this insanity looking for gold and you know,
Right.
really brutality. I mean, horrific. There's not even movies that express some of the horrors that were inflicted on our people, physical horrors at that time. So why I'm sharing this is that they knew back then the importance of food, the importance of water. Look what our people are doing to water today. You go out to Arizona, there's cracks in the earth now from all the water that's been sucked out from aquifers. I mean, crevasses.
Yeah.
The earth is just dried up, right? Because people are sucking out water by, you don't even know how many millions of gallons. Where they're sending that water, it's not helping the people over there. They're sending it to Saudi Arabia. You know, that they're damming up the rivers, right? They don't understand that free flow, that necessity for those rivers to reach the ocean, but they block them up. You know, there's so much water in the top half of the earth that it's actually weighted the earth so much it tilted the axis a little bit because of all that damn water.
Wow.
Look it up, man. Google it. You'll see. There's studies. National Geographic will tell you about that stuff. But you know, it's these relationships. So getting back. So one, you know, our people understood the term of unity, real unity, right? Connecting across peoples and cultures, right? That's why they were open to the Spaniards. But the Spaniards didn't want to hear that message because they had another thing in mind. Right, their self-gratification, their idea of what was powerful, that they could become powerful men, rich men, that could take the resources, our human resources and our environmental resources, all back to them so they can go back home and be rich, powerful men to boss people around or whatever it is they wanted to do. But, you know, getting back to these original fundamental ideas, which I think that most people can grasp, right? If you really put it to them in a very plain, simple way. You know, like I grew up and I heard this term a lot that, you know, we as human beings like to complicate things. And, you know, we just need to break it down and make it real simple for folks.
Yeah.
Oh, if we don't change what we're doing, we're doomed. You know, that's about as simple as we can get it. You know, and you could see that it's only just beginning with what we're experiencing now with COVID. So we have to come together. We have to support each other. You know, we have to help out wherever we can, which is, you know, why I appreciate you, you know, reminding folks that we have this little fundraiser just to try to help some families. You know, now we moved away from some other supplies and, you know, folks are asking us for masks. The government is not supporting them. I don't know what's going on over there in Puerto Rico because of, you know, all those paper towel rolls they threw out, they want them back, you know. You know, you don't know what's going on over there. So people are really scared, right? They don't know, people don't know what's going to happen. So we want to just try to help them in any way we can. Look, you know, I might not be one of great financial means, but, you know, we could try to mobilize amongst the folks that we know using whatever level of notoriety or you know, connections that we have to try to help others. And I think that that's something really important, but not in a way that's just patronizing. We have to help others in a way that they could also become self-sufficient.
Right.
That's why I think that getting people back to the land, starting to, you know, I'm on a board of directors for a community garden in the South Bronx. You know, we have to, like, you know, get people back connected again. You know, so that's just some of the things that I think that we can focus on for the future.
Yeah, I think like the people of Puerto Rico have felt abandoned for so long, and this is yet another part of that where, you know, this is why the link is even up, you know, and I'm sure as we're able to collect more information about organizations, et cetera, definitely will be sharing more information on how people can participate in giving back to our people of Puerto Rico, because there is a serious fear and a feeling of abandonment and a feeling of lacking. And you touched on a lot of different things there that I wanted to try and circle back on just for a second. And, you know, part of that being this illusion that that we've been living in for so long, this veil that has been lifted or is lifting, and it's a choice it's a choice and oftentimes a privilege to be able to see that veil be lifted and to see what's underneath and to make a different choice, make a different direction for your life. I think about all these essential workers that you were talking about, and how many of them are come from immigrant families, or are born here from immigrant families, and that these first peoples who make up the working class, who make up our essential workers. These are all people who are like our heroes now, which is great to see that flipped now, or at least give them the respect that they have been deserving for so long. But my thing about this is that goes like, in returning to a new sense of independence, a new sense of autonomy with our food, and with a new sense of sovereignty with our food. I had a guest on a couple weeks ago. It was a farmer in Hawaii, and we had a big discussion about this, and it's how we are making it cool for this generation and the younger generation to find it to be imperative to be learning old ways in a new time, old ways including farming and putting food in the ground, and what kind of food is good for you, and the magic of the combinations of things you can do with food and with medicines, and what that can do for your body, and just how rad that is, these kinds of things. And I'm sure, as in Puerto Rico as well as around the world, as you've mentioned for yourself in the Bronx there, there's small groups of people, and in some places larger groups of people who have been working on this kind of resiliency, this kind of information sharing, this kind of education for a long time now. And I think it's a constant reminder I like to be able to offer people is that it just takes a little bit of research for you to figure out where in your area you can get connected to groups, communities, and peoples who are interested in becoming less dependent, if not entirely independent, from the Matson ships, from the semis, from the store shelves. Clearly, it's going to take a long time in some aspects, and in some perspectives. It will take generations to become independent from that kind of, I guess you could say, a kind of virus. A kind of capitalism being a kind of virus, where it does not allow you to be sustainable or self-sustaining in any way, because it wants to keep you continually dependent on an alternative system that doesn't regenerate, and that just continues to eat and take and doesn't give anything back. And so I'm so curious. I want to learn more about some of these programs and organizations, because I do know some family in Puerto Rico that is farming, that is teaching their children these kinds of things, and still practicing old ways. So I'm super curious, and if anybody's listening out there today and wants to share that kind of information, please tag me and Uncle Roberto here as well. We would love to learn more. With that, I mean, I'd love to dive more in. However, I have to sort of sign this off for now due to some other things that are happening for me today. But I am so grateful, Tio, for your words, your knowledge and your wisdom shared today. Actually, before we close, I just want to share this, because I know you and I have discussed wanting to talk about it, and we can definitely talk about it in this way here, because anyone who's listening probably knows I have an album coming out, and the album Take Your Power Back. And within that album, I was for all the albums that I've put out, I've tried to include cultural nods and languages and pieces of poetry, etc., from cultures that I either have a relationship with within my own bloodline, my own heritage, or ones that I've spent lots of time with that have inspired me. And this album, I finally was able to create a space where the Taino language and our elder here, Tio Borrero, was able to share an introduction, a incantation, a calling in of the directions, and it's very powerful, and it will be on this album, and it's during our release day as well. I haven't told Tio this, but we're going to hear from him during our release situation, which I'll be telling people more about coming soon. But I don't know if you have any words you want to share. We're going to be talking. Tio and I will definitely be sharing some words in the weeks to come as the album is released and during the album release day. But I wanted to give him the opportunity just to say anything that you want to say at this time, and just, of course, know that we'll be talking a lot more about this in the days to come.
Oh, no, I just really, really appreciate it. Really speaks a lot to you and your idea of bringing people together, and also education, this inclusion of our language. Again, since we were the first people impacted, we've lost so much. Our folks don't even have our own, our folks live all over the island, Taino folks, but we don't even have our own space there. What we're trying to do, you mentioned that agricultural project, we're trying to get space for Taino people to just come back to farming. So that's one of the things that we're trying to do as a confederation. We're working with Scotticoke First Nations on these agroforestry projects. They're doing one here in New York. That's linked to another one they're doing with the Yawanawa down in Brazil. And so we're using all these best practices and hoping that we'll be able to bring it over to the island to really instill that sense of pride, Taino embassy per se, that would be something that would be really beautiful. So I'm just putting that out there to the universe now, that's something that we'd like to see, where we can engage and bring people from all the Taino families from around the island and the other indigenous peoples who reside there to have a place where we can do that kind of ceremony and engage in these traditional exchanges about farming and arts and things like that, because even our singers and our songs, Nahko, just in the old days when the hurricanes used to come, our folks used to sing to those hurricanes, and the elders said the less you sing to those hurricanes, the more impactful things are beginning to. Now, people don't remember those old songs, those old ways, and what happened. We get more and more powerful hurricanes, right? That are increasing with climate change. But not singing to them, not respecting them, not seeing them as for what they are, because of all the distractions of the modern world. You see that's connected, right?
Right.
We got to get back to singing to the things that we need to sing to. And so that's why I'm so happy about this. And I really appreciate the time that you're giving me. And I really thank everyone for their patience with the technical difficulties. Again, I apologize for not being, but I look forward to continuing. And, I love you. My family loves you. And we're going to keep moving strong together.
Yes, Pomotum. And I think if anybody wants to learn more about Tio here, I'm going to post his website. And I think people were asking if you have books. I know that you are an author. I don't know if you want to share where that can be, if it can be found on your website.
You could just go to my website and just follow up with me on my website. I usually try to get back to folks the same day, a different month, but the same day,
Different day, I got you. Yeah, and that's mukaro.net, and I'm going to be posting that on the Instagram on a story after this conversation later today. So thank you so much, Tio. I appreciate your time. No worries about the technical difficulties. Everybody on these comments has just been praising you and loving you, and so grateful for your time and your stories and your words. I love you so much, and we'll talk to you soon, okay? And give my love to your family. Bamatum.
I will.
I don't even know how to end this thing. Oh yeah, here we go. Woo! All right, we did it, guys. That was a lot. That was a lot of goodness. A lot to digest from Tio, and I appreciate you guys' patience and for tuning in that way and staying locked into this conversation. What's up, Triumph? My homies from Triumph. Yeah, so that was a lot. I'm just like, whoa, okay. There was a lot of goodness in there, and I just appreciated him so much. Roberto has been around in my life for many years now, and he, as I said, is featured on this upcoming album, which is pretty cool. And we're going to hear some more from him in the weeks to come regarding our collaboration and regarding Taino songs and culture, which is pretty exciting. Um, yeah, that was a big one. Thanks all so much for your interactions and all the good medicine that you exchanged with us today and during that conversation. I'm feeling filled up. I'm feeling pumped. Thinking about regenerative systems, thinking about farming, thinking about how we can make it cool for kids, for adults. You know, how we can help people return to the soil, return to the earth, return to a way of life that is natural for us as human beings, in a way that we are connected to nature, physical nature, spiritual nature, and take this opportunity many steps further as we continue to lift the veil and the illusion that we've been presented with for so long, and take steps into a new direction of solidarity with Mother Earth, and steps in the right direction for a newer, regenerative, more powerful way of existing together on this planet. Looking to indigenous knowledge, creation stories, and wisdoms, medicines that have been paving the way for us for so long. You know, each of us comes from an indigenous heritage. We all come from an indigeneity of our particular respected places. And I encourage everybody who's listening, who always listens to my music or listens to our talks, you know, our identity is so important. And, you know, once we move past, and this is what Ram Dass would always teach us, is like, once we move past our identity and that crisis of knowing, and we accept, and we can exist within, there is a whole world of knowledge waiting for us as we understand our humanity, and we understand our relationship to nature, our relationship to the spirit, and that will open up a dimensional field, and a new world, a new earth awaits us. So, woo! Balmatum relatives, thank you so much for tuning in today. Biggest love to you guys. I will see you for Sunday service. It's already Thursday. So much things are going to happen in the next couple of days. So I'm sending you guys my love, and I'm feeling you. I'm feeling amazing. I'm feeling great, and I hope that today's conversation was uplifting and that kind of things. All right, y'all. Talk to you soon. Gee.